you start with your weight way on your heels,
Right.
and then you fall forward and lose your balance.
And what's bizarre is I'm fairly confident in saying that most of the time
So when
it's only
you
with this club.
so when you swing back, you can see how you're falling. Your pelvis, that box, as you take it back, you know, you're moving toward the ball, which means your brain's saying, "Oh, I got too much weight on my heels at setup, so I need to keep my weight more in the center of my stance. So I better make sure that I get the weight toward the front part of my feet on the backswing to balance out my weight problem." There's the stand-up move.
Yep.
And you can see that everything's moving forward. The left knee kicks in toward the ball. The pelvis is going to shoot forward here. The weight's going to go to the toes. And you're way out of position there.
No kidding.
Just with your weight. It's not
Yeah.
saying you're way out of
Yeah.
position. It's
Yeah.
just, and all that is a lack of proprioception. And that's a fancy word for saying you're not even aware of where your weight's distributed because you're not thinking about it.
No.
You're
No.
thinking about your backswing or
Yeah, I'm
some
doing this
internal
and trying
swing
to come
thought.
around.
So
There it goes again, right down. Right there.
So what we got to do is we got to set up properly. The things that you can control are where your weight's distributed, you know, and so I'm going to show you with the balance board how to fix this problem because again, you got way too much weight on your toes, and even here, I mean, you can see the club isn't coming down too far over the top. It's coming down a little steep, but the real trouble is you're not going to get to the ground. The club makes contact well above the ground. Heels are off the ground, feet are off the ground, falling forward.
Yeah.
You look how you finished.
Yeah.
So when you make the good swing, you're not going to fall. You're not going to, you know, move your feet. So your left heel, I don't want that thing coming lifting way up like that. You see how you're lifting the left heel way up like that?
Yeah.
I want you to roll the ankle inward. The left ankle should roll in towards the ground and not shoot out this way. That pushes your weight too far to your toes. And then on the takeaway, the club head's way behind your hands. You see here?
Like this?
So that's impossible to get. See, one of the biggest culprits of over the top is a bad takeaway. And you know, when that club head gets behind your hands early on, the only place you can go is over the top. The best players in the world keep the club head above that yellow line, not way in behind it. So you're so intent on getting that club behind you, you start the process way too early.
Gotcha.
So now you're going to, from here, the shaft, you see how flat the shaft is?
Yep.
That's way off plane.
Yeah.
So the shaft should be parallel to the yellow line. So the shaft should really be on this plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, more parallel to that line. So now from being too shallow, you're going to lift, and now you're going to be too steep coming down. So,
my beginning swing.
well, no, it's not your beginning swing, but you have to be aware. Motor learning is not like intellectual learning.
Right.
You intellectually know what to do, but your brain hasn't learned an automatic pattern yet.
Right.
So motor learning comes from without a club in slow motion. So you would be better served in your golf swing spending 20 minutes a day just working on getting the shaft here and hinging it vertically instead of getting the shaft here. If you go out and practice 100 balls at full speed, you're just ingraining the bad habits.
Right.
So, you know, getting that 11 o'clock position really means, is the shaft pointed at my belt or at my zipper?
Oh, so this is too much. I should do more like this.
Oh, well, that's not even close to right. Yeah. See, the hands
11
never
o'clock.
do anything. See, again, what happens in the backswing, you turn your core muscles, but your hands don't move. You see, my hands will never move. Once I set the angle, you just moved them.
Oh.
Once I set this angle, you did it again. Once I set this angle, your first move is there.
Right.
I'll never do that. My hands will never move.
Well, how do
So-
you get 11 o'clock and parallel to the ground?
That's easy because, again, it's already set. By definition, if the shaft is pointing at the center of my body and I turn to the first parallel, the shaft is still pointing at the center of my body.
Like that.
Close, close.
More like that.
Close. So, again, that's something you have to learn. And intellectually knowing it, that's the first stage of learning. But so the order of learning in a motor pattern is without a club,
Right.
doing the movement. Notice, you see, you just moved your wrist. So you're so you're so ingrained, you don't even know you're doing it wrong. You go like that for every time. This left wrist
Doesn't move.
never moves. Like if you had a cast
Uh-huh.
and you molded a piece of plaster on my left wrist, it would never move. And the only time it moves is when I get to about halfway back and the wrists cock. And when they cock on a 45-degree angle. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so
at what point do I
when you
contemplate
were swinging well, your golf club was not in this position. I have video of you swinging and you weren't doing this. But, you know, as I said, it's you know, this inside takeaway also contributes to what? Moving into the ball. The more you swing the club head behind you,
Mm-hmm.
the more you're going to fall forward.
Right.
Your butt, in this right here, is way past your hips. I'm sorry, way past your heels. Okay? And so when you start looking at pros and setups and where their weight, their hips, and all this, the pelvis, the rear end is not that far behind the heels. So all that means you got too much weight on your heels. And like I said, it's not uncommon. It happens. And this is a long video, but here would be the correct takeaway. You'll notice
Yeah, he's barely.
he's got less knee flex.
Yeah.
Now his rear end is behind his heels, but not quite as much. His hands are more underneath his shoulders. In a perfect world, the hand's going to drop right underneath the shoulder sockets. So there's not a lot of reaching going on. And when you reach, you fall forward. Again, so these are all the symptoms at address that cause your issue. Now, watch what happens on the takeaway. The butt end of the golf club will stay in close to the body, and the shaft is still pointed directly at the center of his body. Your first move is your hands will go pretty much on that line, but you start breaking your wrists immediately.
Yeah.
And look at the face. You start rolling the club face open, and that is why you fight a slice. You know, when you look at that club face,
Mm-hmm. It's still closed.
it's,
Yes.
well, what it is parallel to the spine angle. Okay, so if you look at that club face and you look at the spine angle,
Oh,
those,
yeah.
those two are congruent.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we call a neutral club face or square position. Your club is perpendicular to the ground almost, and it started in pretty quick. His stays out. See how the club head stays out in front of him. So now, when he goes to cock his wrists, he's cocking it on a slightly steeper plane than the shaft plane.
Yeah, I know because I'm short, but I shouldn't do it quite that much.
Right, so then he's up to the top. And now he's going to shallow the club out. And you can see how now the shaft is more parallel to the shaft plane.
Oh, so he actually changes his plane.
Yeah, he shallows it out. That's what the best players in the world do. They go steeper on the backswing,
Huh.
shallow on the downswing.
Should I try that, or is that just
Well,
really a
yeah, that's what I want you to do. You do the opposite. You go shallow on the backswing,
Uh-huh.
and then you come in steep. And that is why your club, think about it, it's logical. If the club is way in and around here, it's going to go up and it's going to come over. There's no other place for it to go.
Yeah.
So anyway, it all starts with the takeaway.